We wanted to take a moment away from our normal podcast format to announce something that's pretty freaking exciting. An awesome listener of ours has offered to be the first sponsor of the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast, and Fox and Raven Media. Ben Kelly is the owner of Red Ocean Tattoo at 111 East President Street in Savannah, Georgia. Speaking as someone who's getting close to more tattooed than not, this guy is a really very talented artist. Ben specializes in fantasy tattoos, so think Wheel of Time, X-Men, Adventure Time, Star Wars, and all manner of comic book inspired ink. His online portfolio at redoceantattoo.com runs the gamut, so do yourself a favor and check it out, especially if you're considering a fantasy tattoo like the ones I mentioned, but even if you're just interested in fan art. That's redoceantattoo.com in Savannah, Georgia.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Okay, why is Timber laying all the way over there?
He's frustrated with us that we're not playing with him.
He's nestled in my camping equipment. But the real reason we're here today is to talk about Chapter 1 of The Dragon Reborn, Waiting, and our symbol is the ravens.
The two ravens nodding.
Yeah, the symbol on the t-shirt.
Totally. Well, I just see them, one with his head up and one with his head down. And if you look at it as like two frames, you can see him sort of like nodding.
I like it.
That's why I put it on there with the things. It's like a head bob.
The raven's nodding.
The raven's nodding.
So I'm going to read a ton of this. I hope you're ready.
This is everybody's favorite paragraph, Patrick.
It's definitely mine. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the Third Age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. Down long valleys the wind swept, valleys blue with morning mist hanging in the air, some forested with evergreens, some bare where grasses and wildflowers would soon spring up. It howled, across half-buried ruins and broken monuments, all as forgotten as those who had built them. It moaned in the passes, weather-worn cuts between peaks capped with snow that never melted. Thick clouds clung to the mountain tops so that snow and white billows seemed one. And the lowlands, winter was going or gone, yet here, in the heights, it held a while, quilting the mountainsides with broad, white patches. Only evergreens clung to leaf or needle. All other branches stood bare, brown or gray against the rock and not yet quickened ground. There was no sound but the crisp rush of wind over the snow and stone. The land seemed to be waiting for something to burst.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to read the whole chapter this time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we've already done that with one chapter.
Yeah, I did.
Chapter 50 of The Great Hunt. Read that whole thing from start to finish.
And the wind comes upon Perrin, sitting his horse just inside a thicket.
So what do you think we're waiting for?
The dragon?
Well, it's just the title of the chapter is Waiting.
Waiting.
So I think they're just waiting for something to happen.
For Rand to get pulled in the right direction like Moraine wants.
Waiting for spring so the armies can move. So they've been holed up in the mountains of mist now for all winter, basically. Yeah. So they spent fall retreating, the beginning of winter, crossing the Almoth Plain from Falma.
Mm-hmm.
And they've holed up in the mountains of mist north of the two rivers.
Right.
And so we're out here with Perrin in the forest waiting for one of Moraine's eyes and ears to show up.
Yeah. Eyeing his 5 companions, he wondered if they too felt it. Not the waiting they had been sent there for, but something more. At the end of that paragraph, Perrin senses something. Yeah, do we know exactly where they are? Or are we just deducing based on how they would have traveled?
It says they are north of some of the mines and south of some of the others. And so I'm guessing the mines that are north of them are Borderlander mines, and the ones that are south of them are the ones in the Mountains of Mist near, like, Barrelon.
Yeah. So I assume they're somewhere north of Barrelon and north of Emmonsfield as well. Like, if they left home and head and traveled due east. Yeah?
I always assumed they
Could
were
be.
pretty much due east of Falma.
Mm-hmm. Well, somewhere around Berlin.
I mean, they say they crossed the Almuth Plain. They're not super exact. Rand goes through Gillidan on his way out.
Somewhere, a secret place in the Mountains of Mist. There's some really pretty scenes here, but it's a lot of kind of descriptions. And we're in Perrin's head.
I notice we get to meet Stepper, his horse, for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Stepper and Stayer stay with him for a long time.
He sniffed the wind without thinking. The smell of horse predominated, and of men and men's sweat. A rabbit had gone through those trees not long since, fear powering its run. But the fox on its tail had not killed there. He realized what he was doing, and he stopped it.
And so he's using his advanced senses to sort of watch and smell what's been happening in the forest.
And he's, freaked out, rightfully so. Next page, I have Perrin noting that the way the Shinarans look to him for leadership, probably because of his connection to Rand.
I always thought it was part of his Taviran nature, seems to be just innate leadership. People want to follow Perrin. He's able to unite groups under his leadership that don't really have any right to, but I think his determination and the way he is driven lets him take a lead.
Yeah, Perrin's army in the late books is a really weird collection of a weird patchwork of many different ethnicities and groups of soldiers from various armies.
Don't discount the fact that he's gigantic.
That's true.
These are professional soldiers, and he is bigger than they are in shoulders and in height. Perrin is huge. And it's amazing what a psychological role that will play on on followers.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing in real life. He's kind of fighting back his urge to talk to the wolves, and he's the first to spot the rider.
I keep seeing this, the tickling became an itch. The wolves are attempting to communicate with him here.
I was wondering if that might be what was going on.
Because they're trying to tell him about the Trollocs in the forest.
Oh.
So here's my theory about what's going on. We see a raven, and in a chapter or two, this night, the camp is attacked.
Yeah.
So here's my sequence of events. The shadow is following the Tinker Woman to the camp. The raven, they know she's not going to kill the raven because she's a tinker. So when the raven dies, they have a pretty good idea of where the camp is. Because
doesn't it have to report back, though?
It does, but what happens if it doesn't come back?
Okay.
Right? If they're sending out ravens and only one doesn't come back, they investigate it.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then shortly after that, Rand brings down the mother of all earthquakes and channels a ton of power.
Oh, right. So any Murdral in the area would know.
Yeah, within I think even they say within 15 miles. So essentially, the raven gets him close. Rand tells him exactly what's going on, and that triggers the attack that's going on.
Yeah.
So the Trollocs are in the area, and the wolves are desperately trying to tell Perrin about it, and he is ignoring them. He has locked them out. And if he'd opened himself up, he would have known what was coming.
Yeah. I think it's likely that one of Moraine's eyes and ears were followed, or at least followed by the Dark One's eyes.
I mean, they wouldn't necessarily know that someone was Moraine's eyes and ears. They may have been zeroing in on this place for a while.
Yeah.
It's hard to really know how long it took them to find the place, but clearly, because of the attack tonight, the camp has been found. And the raven has to be one of the first indicators of this.
I think that's the most likely.
And we noticed that the raven and the woman are spotted in the same paragraph. They literally show up together at the same time. Within the same paragraph that Perrin sees the rider coming from the direction of Terabon, the last line is Massima suddenly muttered, "Raven," like a curse. So those two are linked together.
Its quarry might have been carrion in the dead snow or some small animal, yet Perrin could not take the chance. He's the one that shoots the bird.
He's a good archer.
Yeah.
And his enhanced senses meant he's probably spotted the raven. Well, it's actually interesting. Massima spotted the raven first, so just Perrin being quick on the draw.
Does it have to report, Perrin asks softly, or does he see what it sees?
I also wonder if part of the reason Perrin's arrow gets there first is because he's using a Two Rivers longbow, which is going to launch an arrow much faster.
I suspected that, yeah. Because it seems like they all kind of fire at the same time, but Perrin's arrow gets there first. But this is like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but it's like, it's a much more powerful. It's the V8 of the
the difference between a 22 and a rifle.
Yeah, both kill you, but one can do it from like a mile away.
Momentum matters, and he's putting a lot of momentum behind those arrows.
If Heartsbane saw what Raven saw, we would all have been dead before we reached the mountains. Reagan's voice was so easy. It was a matter of every day to a Shinaran soldier.
And these seem to be the three Shinarans we sort of know best. We've seen them at the end of the Great Hunt.
Yeah.
We've seen, they'll appear again a couple of times. Uno obviously becomes a pretty major character.
Reagan and Massima.
Yeah, Reagan less so. I feel like he sort of pops up a few more times, but he never really does anything significant.
Yeah, he's around though. I really like Uno too.
Oh, Uno's great. Yeah. He's bloody brilliant.
He's got the eye patch now. I don't think we got there yet, but he picked up a painted eye patch somewhere. Of course, it's like an angry eye.
Everybody looks at it and like shudders.
He loves it. He likes it.
Totally. Uno thrives on making other people uncomfortable, whether it's through his cursing, whether it's the eye patch. He likes to be abrasive, but he's still a really kind dude, which is awesome. He's always there to help. He just likes being abrasive about it.
Yeah.
Which makes him fun.
Exactly. And they have a short conversation about Perrin's bow, but Reagan kind of admires it. Too long for horseback, Massima sneered.
Nobody likes Massima. But we're seeing his transformation into the prophet here.
Yeah.
The way he has utter worship for Rand.
I suspect he's compelled for a lot of that time. Or under the control of someone. Is it Grandel?
I mean, yeah, I think so. So here's a question. Is Uno's name because he only has one eye?
I always suspected, yeah. Or is Uno just his real name?
Yeah.
Is it? It might be just his real name. But it works so well.
Like typical Robert Jordan, in Randland, Uno doesn't mean one. They don't speak Spanish. So I bet that's just
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's just like a neat little, remember Uno, the dude with one eye.
Yeah, this just says, the wiki just says his name is Uno no Mesta.
I think that's just Jordan being clever.
I never thought of it. I always thought of it as like a funny nickname.
No, that's his real name. And he had it before he lost the eye.
Permanently frowning eye and fiery red did nothing to make his stare easier to face. Perrin waits until he thinks that the Shinarans will be able to see the woman, and then he points her out. He can tell she's one of the traveling people from a distance because of her clothing.
He sort of ruminates on all the women that have come, that this has happened over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about this. How do we think these women are finding Moraine?
She must send directions back with them as well.
But this Tinkerwoman says she doesn't know how she found them. She just knew if she went in that direction. There were no directions. There were no go this way, then that way, and say this passcode. She just knew.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't have a good theory about this, and I was hoping Discord could help me out. The best theory I had is it was something like she sends them a letter or a coin in the mail, and they get some sort of... The coin compulsion she uses on the boys is maybe similar in reverse, because she generally knows the direction the boys are in, but maybe she's doing something to these women so they know what direction she's in.
Yeah, women from every station in life, all alone. From Tarabon and Gildan, and even Amadisha.
But I would definitely call this one of Moraine's Gandalf powers, mystery powers.
Well, it could be any number of things. The Tuatha'an woman, when Perrin questions her, might just be dodging the question. That's a thing too.
Possibly. I doubt that.
Yeah, but I'm saying it could be any number of things.
We've also heard Moraine say she's learned much. She's more dangerous than she used to be.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the blues have a secret weave that can direct the path of insects.
What?
Yeah. That's how she gets ants in Lan's pants.
Oh. Right. Yeah. I mean, so maybe she's capable of directing her eyes and ears.
Or yeah, just something similar to reach out and pull on someone.
My headcanon, though, is going to be a coin like she gave to the boys, just in reverse. So instead of her knowing where they are, they know where she is.
I'm nodding.
Because that's the closest thing we see is some weave on an object that creates the finding, sort of like the belt buckle.
Right.
But this is backwards, but, I think we can call it in reverse, that somehow Moraine is able to have something that draws them to her instead of the other way around.
She says to Perrin, I seek a woman. And Perrin catches that and knew that she was about to say an Aes Sedai.
Yeah, I like the difference between Anne versus A.
Yeah.
Just to show it's Anne Aes Sedai.
Does she have a name, good mistress? Perrin asked. He had done this too many times in the last few months to need her reply. Sometimes she is called Moraine. My name is Leia. We will take you to her. This is where he asks, how did you find us? Leia shrugged and answered hesitantly. I knew that if I came this way, someone would find me and take me to her. I just knew. I have news for her. Perrin did not ask what news. The women gave the information they brought only to Moraine.
I mean, I feel like that's all we get.
Yeah, it's mysterious.
Very. Moraine works in mysterious ways.
How many visitors, Aradia's asking? Perrin describes like at least a half a dozen, but the way he talks about it seems to make it seem like he's been doing this all the time. Like this is totally routine for him now.
I mean, I think she gets regular news. They've been there all winter. Call it 3 months. I'm guessing a visitor a week to keep up regular news.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 12. I'd say she probably he's done it a dozen times, would be my guess.
Sir Septon, that's a good point. I mean, just having 3 Ta'Veren in one place is enough to bend things. Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
Matt's gone.
Oh, right, there's only 2. Matt's in Tarvellan. Yeah, I don't know if he's there yet or not.
Yeah, takes him a while to get there. And I don't think Moraine is... We know Moraine's not Ta'Veren because Suan can see it, and she would totally see Moraine as Ta'Veren and would have mentioned something about it.
Oh, if Moraine was Ta'Veren.
Yeah.
Yeah, Swan would know.
That's any character who's met Swan, we can automatically rule out as being Ta'Veren because she would see it and definitely comment on it.
Does Swan ever see Bella?
She rides Bella a bunch.
Oh, that's right.
Maybe she can't see animal Ta'Veren, just male human Ta'Veren.
Perrin kind of tries to strike up a conversation with her and says, I was surprised to see one of the traveling people believing as you do. And they enter into this classic argument.
Yeah, this is an argument that's super important to Perrin and his character. It's really the basis for everything that he is and that he struggles with. It sort of exemplifies his struggle between the hammer and the axe and violence and peace, and I've always thought of it as the difference between destruction and creation, more so with Perrin.
Uh-huh.
Because the axe represents pure destruction and the hammer can create things.
Right.
And what he wants and envies is the piece to be creative and be a blacksmith versus being destructive and a warrior.
Yeah.
I think there's a great quote here where he says, I don't make the world, I just have to live in it. As much as he doesn't agree with the Tinkers, I think he idealizes the Tinkers.
Yeah, I mean, it's an attractive belief system, but, Perrin brings up I guess what I'm thinking of as a classic argument where she says, Mistress, I hope you never have to face Trollocs with the strength of your belief. The strength of their swords will cut you down where you stand. But she points out that he's not happy with his weapons.
Of course not. He's not happy with his axe.
Oh, and right after that, the wolves are bothering him again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that just pops up again and again where they're like, hey, Trollocs, twisted ones.
Yeah.
You should probably pay attention. Because they wouldn't contact him for people. They don't care about people. But twisted ones, they care.
There's some really nice scenery. I didn't know how much of this to read or not read.
One line here that Leia says that is... And we've talked about this before a few times, but violence harms the doer as much as the victim.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the central themes of Jordan's books. If I'd come back to something that he personally probably struggles with, is that.
Yeah, it could be.
It hurts people. It hardens them to do violence.
Right. But I feel like this argument that we see over and over kind of also demonstrates that sometimes you have to do violence. Sometimes it becomes necessary.
Absolutely.
Which is like what he's demonstrating over and over.
But you're still harmed by it.
Yeah.
Even when it's necessary. It is something that is harmful to you. It harms your spirit. It gives you some real damage, both on the spiritual and mental level.
I'm nodding.
And then I want to talk a little bit about this statue.
Yeah. In the distance, the side of a mountain had been carved into a semblance of two towering forms, a man and a woman. Perrin thought they might be, though the wind and rain had long since made that uncertain. Even Moraine claimed to be unsure who they were supposed to be, or when the granite had been cut.
Now, being we are in the Mountains of Mist, in the general area of Manetheren, do you think this are the ancient king and queen of Manetheren carved into stone? Or do you think it's older than that?
Aemon and Egwene's previous life. I think we've proposed a couple of times. Eldrine, that's it. Aemon.
I thought that these statues might be the two of them, being as we're in the Mountains of Mist, and very little else has survived, because she flattened the city, so no one would know necessarily what they looked like.
Yeah, pulled an LTT and nuked it.
Yeah, totally. Might be these two statues that were off in the mountains and survived.
I like that idea.
I've always assumed this was a king and queen of Manetheren. In particular, Aemon and Eldrine.
And that's like in the middle of the pretty scene that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Bricklebacks and small trout darted away from the horses' hooves, silver flashes in the clear water. A deer raised its head from browsing, hesitated as the party rode out of the stream, then bounded off into the trees, and a large mountain cat, gray-striped and spotted with black, seemed to rise out of the ground, frustrated in its stalk. It eyed the horses a moment, and with a lash of its tail vanished after the deer. But there was little life visible in the mountains yet. Only a handful of birds perched on limbs or pecked at the ground where the snow had melted. More would return to the heights in a few weeks, but not yet. They saw no other ravens. I just liked that little scene a lot.
The visual is gorgeous.
Yeah.
This whole opening chapter of the mountains in the snow is just beautiful. I want to see a Lord of the Rings style overhead shot of flying through the snowy mountains into the camp, like following the wind.
The helicopter shot above
Totally.
Perrin as he rides his horse through the
right
through the glimmering snow. Yeah,
with like Uno and the few people behind him, and then like the Tinker, following them, and maybe like a raven flying overhead watching.
Helicopter
like
shot.
Totally.
Get on it, Rafe. Am I pronouncing that right? I should just say Judkins, because...
Rafe Judkins. I think that's...
Rafe.
I think of it like Raphael, only shorter.
So they ride all morning, get to the camp. Perrin notes the fake bird call.
And this camp is nestled in a valley through a fairly narrow pass. So if they were attacked, they could defend themselves.
Yeah.
And it opens up into a valley with like a spring and some hunting, so they could basically hole up there and survive for quite some time.
And it's very defensible.
Exactly.
A bird called in the trees and another answered it from ahead. Perrin smiled. Bluefinch calls. A borderland bird. No one rode this way without being seen. He rubbed his nose and did not look at the tree the first bird, in quotes, had called from. There's a soldier sitting up in a tree.
Perrin's not giving away that he knows he's there, I suppose. They ride into camp.
Yeah, they spend some time describing the big bowl in the mountains. That's kind of the hollow that you just described. The little log huts they've built that they've been living in.
He gives you a bit of an outsider's perspective in the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah.
Where he's sort of like, you're riding to this camp and he sort of describes it where you don't know who Min is, you don't know who Loyal is, you don't know what's on the banner.
I noticed that.
Well, it's the start of a new book.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of an introduction to the characters, but it's also sort of giving it from Leia's perspective, I thought.
Oh, I like that. A long white banner hung limply from a tall pole near them. I like that he just left it at that. The dragon banner.
Well, it's because it ends the chapter with the banner being unfurled. So it makes a point of showing it furled up when they walk in.
Oh, good point. A burst of wind swirled into the bowl, making cloaks flap and rippling the banner out to its full length. For a moment, the creature on it seemed to ride the wind. A four-legged serpent, scaled in gold and scarlet, golden maned like a lion, and its feet each tipped with 5 golden claws, a banner of legend, a banner most men would not know if they saw it, but would fear when they learned its name. Perrin waved a hand that took it all in as he led the way down into the bowl. Welcome to the camp of the Dragon Reborn, Leia.
We were recently at JordanCon, and we had the pleasure of meeting our friend and listener, Jeff Petrie, who has an entire Wheel of Time sleeve. Here's a short interview we did with him at the con. It's fantastic. Jeff, was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was really fun. We just sat down in the lobby and talked to him about it for a while.
Yep, my name's Jeffrey Petrie.
Cool. Where are you from, man?
All right, I'm from Mobile, Alabama. Been a huge Wheel of Time fan for a long time, probably since I was 14 or 15. That's when I started reading, I think.
I feel like that's a pretty common age for people to get into it. I was like a little younger than that.
Book 10 was on my mom's bookshelf, just sitting there doing nothing. And I was like,
your parents were into it?
No, she just picked up random books from like used bookstores and stuff all the time.
I was going to say, my parents did not.
She was kind of into fantasy stuff, though, for a while there.
Yeah.
And she had never read it, but it was just sitting on the shelf, and I was like, this looks interesting. Started reading book 10, like...
My parents, never got it while I was growing up. They also went through a short phase where they were like, is this satanic?
Right. I get that. But yeah, so then I realized what it was, and I went into the library and started picking up from the beginning.
Well, nice, man. We wanted to have Jeff on because he has that awesome Wheel of Time tattoo that we posted up in the Discord channel a while back. But I don't know, I guess, should I ask you to describe it for people who are only listening?
Yeah. The tattoo, if you haven't seen it, it's a full sleeve tattoo, shoulder to wrist. It's just a collection of some of the art that's a little bit more recognizable to the fan base. A lot of the ebook art. But yeah, Ben Kelly is the artist, and he's a huge fan of the series as well. So found him on Facebook, the Facebook fan page actually. Got up with him and decided to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I guess I also want to say out loud for the audio that Ben from Red Ocean Tattoo was one of the first people that offered to sponsor the podcast. So that's been really cool. It makes us feel like a real deal rather than two nerds in a basement, which is what we are. How are you liking the con?
The con's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is my first time to the con. Can probably thank you guys for that, because when you guys said you might be going out, I was like, well, I got to make the trip now for sure. It's just a 5.5 hour drive from me, so
a lot of people came from really far.
Yeah, for real.
And,
DT here came from Canada.
Yeah. I'll ask you, I guess, what was your favorite event?
So far, I'm really digging the art gallery. I've gone through there several times, picking up some art from really great artists.
Oh man, I still haven't done that. I got to do that.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff in there. And made it to the tail end of the Team Jordan reading. Harriet was there, and some of the other members that were involved in the companion novel were there, and they talked a lot about what Robert Jordan was thinking about and what was on his mind while he was writing the books.
Kind of philosophical end.
Yeah, that and more detailed stuff. Some really nice information about. Like for example, he had 2 more prequels in mind. One of them in which was a prequel about Tam, which was, I'm like, wow,
that would be awesome,
insane. Yeah,
Tam's one of our favorite characters
for sure.
Well, anything else I should ask? Maybe start with how you got the idea to get the tattoo.
Oh yeah, so after I got my first tattoo, I immediately realized I really love tattoos, and I was going to go that way, and it was pretty immediate that I wanted a Wheel of Time tattoo. And since I had a full left arm available, I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and try to sleeve it up. So I went around locally and asked all the tattoo artists that I was friends with and knew if they had read the books, and none of them had, of course. And I really wanted the tattoo artist to be a fan of the series, because I felt like that really is necessary.
Yeah,
but to kind of share that with the artist and what they would want to put.
Was that tough to find? To find a
extremely
tattoo
hard? Yeah, I mean, impossible. I thought, and I was like, this is never going to work. And so, really crazy. I was on the fan page, and Ben posted something on the fan page on Facebook. The artist, he mentioned he was a tattoo artist, and I looked him up. He saw he was in Savannah, not too far away, and looked at his Instagram page, saw his art. He's a phenomenal artist. I was like, yep, this is the guy. So I got in contact with him and decided
really
to make the trip.
cool color for audio only people.
Yeah,
it's like
he's got a really painterly style, so he doesn't.
There's not a lot of outline at all.
Yeah,
it's just color, which is really it's really vivid.
Right. He's really good with the color and the painterly style. So anyway, decided to make the trip. We got in contact with him over Skype and made the first trip out there. Ben's a really cool guy. His tattoo shop, Red Ocean, is it's a really awesome location right in downtown Savannah, the historical district. And he's got a lot of good artists that work for him there as well. And yeah, after 35 plus hours of tattooing with him and sitting there and just talking about the Wheel of Time, and we listened to the audiobooks while we tattooed, which is
cool.
Unique for me. Usually you just got music going or something, but that was really a lot of fun. Yeah, we've become really good friends, and it's great. It's been a great experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I took 3 trips up to Red Ocean, 3 separate trips, and about 2 sessions per trip. It's about 6 hours a day of tattooing, which is pretty intense, but not too bad when you're sitting there, enjoying a conversation about the Wheel of Time, with another fan.
When we were talking about this before I turned the mic on, I was thinking, like, I think the longest I've ever sat was 4 hours. And at that point, I'm just like, I can't really make conversation anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like quiet, and I just think about my breathing.
Exactly, yeah.
You get that like irritability after a couple hours of
that's right. Absolutely. But
just like, I better not talk anymore.
Yeah, Ben and his shop, they're really professional, and it's a lot of fun. They're really great people. So it was a good experience. Yeah. I would definitely suggest any Wheel of Time fans looking for art, any kind of tattoos, you can't beat an artist who's also a huge fan of the series.
I would love to go. I actually thought about going while we were here, but it's too far to, I would miss a day of the con. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
If they do it in Atlanta every year,
yeah,
right?
And he's probably pretty booked up to now. That's why he actually couldn't make the con, because he was booked up pretty good. Yeah, he was really bummed he couldn't make the con, but he said definitely next year if he can.
Maybe next year I'll come out for like a week, stay wherever the con is, and go get us something small from him. That would be cool.
That's probably, I think, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours from here, maybe.
There's got to be a way, like
they're all around the coast,
or something.
So yeah,
because I'm never going to drive out here.
Oh yeah, well you could fly out here and then I could drive you out to Savannah, because I'd probably be wanting to go that way too. If we can make something work like that.
I had the best day the other day when I stayed at Julia's, and she had work, so I guess Saturday. And I woke up late and slowly went down the hill to where I knew there's a decent cafe. I was like, I'll get a cup of coffee and then I'll start my day. And I was reading Mistborn. I was like, I'll have another cup of coffee, then I'll start my day. And then I walked I finally left and I walked 3 blocks and I was like, I'll have a beer. And a sandwich. And I sat in that bar for 3 hours. I read all of Well of Ascension. So I was only halfway through it still. I got 2 left. And I'm hoping that, we'll be busy at the con, but while traveling, I can read a lot. And I have a bunch of days off this week. But the whole point of that was doing very little feels great.
It really does. It really does.
If I could just drink and read, and that's all I ever had to do, I would be a happy guy. Before I forget, I don't think we have a time locked in, but we're going to have a group room at the con probably on Sunday. Is that right? Probably. Just so we can all meet up, and we're going to totally stick microphones in your faces and ask you what you thought of stuff and make that part of the Jordan Con episode.
They haven't committed to anything for us. We asked for a Sunday morning, but I still don't know yet.
Okay. Well,
we'll announce it on Discord as soon as we know for sure.
Yeah, it's not locked in, but I'm also planning on just letting people know through Discord where we are. I'm not sure exactly how many people who hang out here will be there. Probably at least a handful. So like, if we're out getting a beer or something, I'll just like drop that in Discord and just say where we are. So if anyone wants to get a drink and a taco or something, I'm always down.
We actually don't have any Wheel of Time spoilers t-shirts.
We don't have any of our own shirts.
We don't have any of our own merch. We haven't bought anything off of Cafe Press. So we'll be walking around with like buttons.
Oh geez. If we like order them now, would they even get here in time? Probably not, right? We got like a week, I think.
We have like 4 days.
Oh yeah, we leave on the 19th.
Yeah. So doubtful. No.
Oh well.
I don't even think they print them that fast because they print them on demand. So yeah, but I'm getting stoked about JordanCon.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe we're getting on a plane.
I mean, I'm kind of hoping a bunch of people who are like, "What's this Wheel of Time spoilers thing?" show up because I would like to speak to them for the first time.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a haircut and everything. I'm not like Shaggy anymore.
Oh, I should maybe do that.
Well, and yeah, they've been super nice. I've been in email communication with just a bunch of these folks, and they've all been really nice and accommodating and really excited that we're going to be there.
We have a very specific audience. So like a sticker on a pole, like the chances that a Wheel of Time fan is going to walk by and see the sticker are just like low.
At the same time, you'd be amazed how many people have read The Wheel of Time. I was going in, so I got this new job, and I was talking about the podcast, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my husband loves that. He goes upstairs and puts in his headphones and reads along in the book at the same time, and he just does it over and over and over again, and I don't get it." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's one of us. Like we know him. Like I know exactly who he is." I like tried to get his number. I was like, we'd hang out, we'd be best friends. So I'm surprised now that I talk about the podcast all the time, you find people. It's not everybody, and it's not most people.
Yeah.
But most people know someone who's read The Wheel of Time.
That's a good point, Samael. I never know how to pronounce that. I've read many, many fantasy series and novels, and the amount that I've read twice is like, it's like Mistborn, Wheel of Time, but more than twice? Never. I've never read any other series more than twice.
Really?
Other than The Wheel of Time.
Oh, yeah. I'm a chronic rereader.
I don't really, I don't do that as much. I'm always looking for something new usually, but that's what we're here for. There's always something new in The Wheel of Time.
I just blew through the Wax and Wayne trilogy over the last week.
Yeah, I have it next to me here. I'm going to be doing that. You said you liked it.
I did. I don't think I ever actually read Bands of Mourning before.
Oh.
I thought I had, and then I was going back through it, and it's like, I don't remember any of this. Not even in a vaguely I think I forgot it. It's like, it was the third book. I think I read the first two, and then I missed that the third one came out.
It goes Alloy, Shadows, Bands.
Yeah. And so I think I read Alloy and Shadow, and then maybe a preview of Bands, because I remember the first chapter, and I was like, oh, I've read this before, and then nothing.
Oh.
I really enjoyed the Mistborn sextuplet.
Or 7 total books, right? If you count.
I mean, I have a hard time counting Secret History as a...
Speaking of which,
book.
I should download that right now so that I don't forget. I went to Barnes & Noble's for the first time, and I don't remember the last time I was at a Barnes & Noble's.
Aren't they out of business?
It's the closest large bookstore. No, I mean, there's one in the mall. Lloyd Center. That's probably why it stays in business, because it's the only bookstore in the mall. Yeah, Borders went out of business.
Because I just go to Powell's here in Portland.
I think Amazon is slowly bleeding Barnes & Noble's dry. Yeah, in Portland, there's a small chain called Powell's Books. It's really easy to find used books there. So that's what I usually go for, because I can get a paperback of The Eye of the World for $2.50 or something.
They call themselves the world's largest independent bookstore, so it's the world's largest bookstore that doesn't have a bunch of other chains and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Portland's somewhat famous for it.
It's a really cool. If any of you guys are ever in Portland, and it's is it 3 stories? The one downtown, or 4?
3. I think it's 4.
and they give you a map when you walk in, and take it because you'll totally get lost.
Which is also okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've spent like half a day just wandering around there, and there's a coffee shop in there too, and a little cafe,
and a bunch of other Portland hipsters wandering around, and
yeah,
it's great. The only issue I would say is that it sometimes gets a little touristy, especially in like the spring.
Totally.
Just because downtown Portland gets swarmed with tourists, and everyone says, "Oh, you got to go to Powell's." So it's a good place on a rainy day, not so great.
I know.
On a spring touristy day.
I send tourists there all the time. Also the Rose Garden. Julia loves going to movies in the middle of the day for some reason, and so I end up going all the time. I've seen all the new movies now. I'm also used to being the one who never goes. Eventually, if enough people tell me to watch it, I'll eventually download something, usually watch it.
Theaters just make me feel trapped.
I think that's understandable.
I spend the whole time in the theater thinking about getting out rather than watching the movie. It's not a pleasant experience. Streaming is great. Yep. I got a nice big TV. I get close to it, just like the theater. Without,
Except there's no annoying guy making comments behind you.
Portland theaters are better than most because they have tables that you can sit and eat at, and you get a little more space to stretch out.
Oh yeah, I was blown away by that when I first moved here. I was like, you can drink a beer while you watch a movie? That's genius. Have a slice?
Totally.
Pizza?
They're like bars with theaters out, screens that they project onto in front. I think theaters figured out that you can't just charge people for the movie because you're not going to make any money. All the money for the movie goes right back to the studio. You have to make your money doing something else, like selling overpriced popcorn or actually having beer and pizza or a brewery.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?